Now this step's kind of important, and I normally would recommend that what you want to do is lay the pedals out once you've determined what your order is going to be in the configuration that makes sense to you. At this point you want to give some thought to how easy the pedals are going to be to reach when you need to use them in a live situation. So what we've done here, we have a fairly small number of pedals. We've laid them out with the basic guidelines in mind. We have our tuner first, followed by our distortion pedal, followed by an EQ so that we can tailor the sound post-distortion. And again, you could have put this beforehand if you wanted to. I prefer it afterwards. Experiment with it. But once you've experimented and you've come up with a signal chain that works well for you and gives you the different sounds that you want, then lay the pedals out. At this point, you're going to have to give some consideration to leaving enough room in between the pedals for whatever connectors you're going to use. So I've pre-configured a couple of cables here to just kind of show you how this will work. And in other cases, I've got the empty pedal plugs unplugged with no cables on them to just kind of get my distances measured out and figure how my board is going to be set up. I also have the woods.com yellow jacket here, and this is going to be our power supply. We want to leave enough room around the power supply for whatever adapters we're going to have plugged in or whatever. In this case, we're going to be coming off of these two side outlets here and leaving the front end open for us to connect a external extension cord to power the entire board. So we want this at the top end of the board so we can easily insert a standard 3-prong extension cable into this to power the board. Once you have everything laid out and you've left enough space for all the jacks and everything to interconnect, you want to sit down and measure this out. Now this is a little bit over 28 inches. Now I'm going to leave a little extra space on this board so that you could add more pedals to it at a later date if you want. For example, we could put additional pedals in a second row up here if we wanted to. But this board works out to be about 28 inches wide, and our depth is going to be just a little over, 16 inches will actually, let's call it 16. 16 will cover our front to back depth of the board and give us enough space for a second tier at some point if we want to add that to it. But that gives us our dimensions here. So we're looking at a board that needs to be 16 inches deep and again 28 inches wide. By plotting this out in advance, we're going to save ourselves a lot of headaches and a lot of work because we figured out how everything's going to fit on the board before we start sawing the wood, before we start putting everything together and find that we've made a mistake or didn't leave enough spacing. So kind of plot everything out in advance. Again, first getting your signal chain, determining what order you want your pedals in, then lay them out, measure, and then we're ready to cut the wood.